20 billion years of unfoldment leave this universe yet in its early stages. It is still a realm of vast extremes, frozen worlds of rigid matter contrasting the awesome heat of stars, with light years of empty space between. What biology there is, appears only as a slight and nearly indistinguishable film on the surface of but a few worlds. Yet, in that biological film lies the future. It is a relatively new substance, biology. Its day has only now begun to dawn. The present universal distribution of matter, time, space, and energy, forms but the skeletal structure of what is to be. As the galaxies spiral, so the linear progressions of creation spiral as well, until the passage of change brings to this great universal medicine wheel the forms that have ever lain dormant within. For these galaxies are nests and pods. Each of their fiery stars is a seed, with inherent designs yet to be released, as distinct from what stars are today, as the acorn is distinct from the oak. Within and suspended among the stars of each galactic nest, eternal intent radiates fields of energy, not visible to your physical sight. These fields of energy are called into being by the vibrational structure of the primal sound, the first tone or word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Just as vegetation grows up along the life-giving network of a river's water, the physical forms of the future develop along these circuits of primal sound. As the universe unfolds, the circuits attract the beings and design patterns that objectify the creative intentions of the one who is the giver of life. Within the parameters of these energy circuits, individual beings are free to choose, from among infinite role possibilities, those that best suit them and their natures. They are free to improvise their unique harmonic styles of creation, within the frequencies of the Word. The Word's enfolded order is invisible to physical sight, but through the eyes of spirit, it can be seen. If you close your eyes, you may see it stretching before you, a pulsing network of implicit potential, as real as any sensory realm, a vibrational reality that in an earlier age was called the Kingdom of Heaven. It is the spatial, but not yet temporal, objectification of universal thought designs, a world of metaform and archetype, a realm of intention waiting to materialize. It is the spiritual scaffold, around which the biology of the future will congeal, into a work of splendor and magnificence without precedent, and, as yet, without name. It is a blueprint, a subtle latticework of intent and vibration. It is the outline, the pattern for a finely woven, luminous biology of galactic and someday intergalactic extent. Through you the potential of this implicit order will one day dance to life. New beings, new creatures will appear to fly among the fields of what is now still formless space, to share with us the joys of universal exploration. One day, you will call into orbital patterns, the atoms, molecules, and cells that will objectify this infrastructure and provide its physicality. But perhaps you sense it now, perhaps you feel already the awakening. We address you now upon the frequencies of your essence, to remind you, to help you recall. The time you create spirals outward from your presence, like a ship's wake, trailing through the ocean. The immediate past fans out behind you. In its fertile cone, life appears in many forms. In it, the earth had seen a biosphere flourish. Yet it is not the past that reveals your direction, but the purpose with which you move. The cone of your future intentionality spirals brilliant and multidimensional before you, illuminating the universal potential that will one day take form. Like the light of a radiant beacon, it reveals your vibrational sketchings in the heavens. From your center in eternal being, energy intent swirls outward to become beings, individualized forms of your expression, angels, patterned beings, generations of light. Issuing from the heart of this dimensional creation, your intelligence radiates outward in concentric pulsations, rippling throughout the far-flung fields of space. At the simultaneous velocity of love, it is multiplied in the transforming prism of each galactic core. From the center of each galaxy, your intelligence flows outward to each star, and multiplies again. And on, the process goes. From the center of this sun star, it flows to the Earth and into the awakening human cells of the Earth's nearly activated planetary nervous system. Your multiplications of consciousness call forth the linearity of time, even as the many beings sharing your consciousness bring the passages of the moon about the Earth around the sun, and the sun in a spiral cluster with others of its kind. Your movement now brings this star system into a new region of space. You stationed us here, angels of the Primal Coherence, to remind you, to awaken you, lest in sleeping, I forget, you said, lest in dreaming a planetary creation I become lost in the wonders of time. In this quarter century, your dream produces its harvest. The bridge between creator and creation appears. A human family awaits your conscious habitation. The intelligence overridden and denied in the historical state awakens, as a sleeper awakening within a single body. It circulates through human minds, looks through human eyes, interprets the world through human forms. And it knows itself as one. The field of collective human consciousness is now entering the final stage of the awakening process, congealing into awareness of itself as the organ of consciousness, similar in function to a brain, of a single planetary being, a being with internal organs, of oceans, forests, ecosystems, and atmosphere. Humankind is its system both for processing information and for directing its future development. The language through which we are currently filtering these thoughts has no adequate words for this single planetary being, for the Creator, or even for the human species. We choose the nearest approximate labels, hoping that the structure in which we weave these thoughts will penetrate below the surface of your mind, to reveal a sense of the underlying rhythms of awareness behind them, stirring your own perception and memory and providing you, from within, an understanding, an experience deeper and more comprehensive than these words alone can provide. The purpose of these transmissions is to awaken the Creator upon this material world, and to guide you into that awakening awareness. One intelligence flows through all creatures, but as it is channeled, it is focused in many different ways through the various dimensional levels, like high-voltage current moving through a series of step-down transformers. In post-historic societies of the Earth, human thought and activity will be guided by that intelligence in one or another of its various forms. Certain creative acts will bring, through human form, galactic intelligence, others, the universal intelligence that orchestrates the galactic network itself. The varying needs of each creative situation will call for people to draw upon different types and qualities of awareness. Through some, the awakened planetary intelligence of the Earth will flow, while at the same time, others will be conduits for the solar intelligence of this star system, or perhaps at times, the intelligence of other stars. Many will channel the intelligence of that being who is the catalyst and creator of all biological life. Yet the varieties of universal intelligence are not limited to just its larger focalizations. When it is helpful or required, people in post-historic times will also represent the intelligence of the angelic beings, associated with specific bioregions, with rivers, lakes, and mountains, or if it is helpful, with the animal and vegetable life forms of the Earth. Even the intelligence of atomic and molecular structure will be invoked, consulted, and utilized in creative activities where it is relevant. Healthy human individuality brings with it a hologrammatic understanding of the being whose unfoldment is this universe, an understanding in which the whole is microcosmically reflected in the structure of the part. To activate this understanding, to access the many frequencies of its awareness, you have only to recall, to notice your primal union with the source of life, and to elevate that union to the citadel of your decision-making. When you understand the nature of your essential being, in metapersonal terms, you know your human body as a cell in a developing planetary organism. And you recognize in that organism the signature of your own spiritual identity. In much the same way that complete genetic information for an entire human body is contained in each of the body's many trillion cells, each awakened human being has inner access to the information circulating in the unified field of awareness that precedes all individuality. Wherever the symphonic rhythms of the universal dance pervade, each part within each larger unit experiences this sort of hologrammatic relationship to the whole. Consequently, when you live in a harmonic state, your consciousness provides you with options not available to those who imagine themselves existing in isolation. To know yourself as an awakened individual is to also know yourself as the being of the surrounding context. When you are not focused on the creative or interpretative enjoyment of individuality, you are free to experience the organic identity shift that brings awareness of your larger collective humanity. In the same way, you are free to shift through connection with humankind's collective I into an experience of planetary identity, solar identity, or identity as the great spiraling being of the Milky Way. In post-historic times you will know each level of creative manifestation as a dimension, or octave, of your own being's unfoldment. You will experience naturally the freedom and mobility of musically directed travel up and down these octaves of manifestation. You cannot travel into yourself without exploring the infinite reaches of eternal consciousness. You cannot know yourself in reality without knowing God. Each plane of manifestation is a higher octave on a single vibrational continuum. The lower octaves offer greater multiplicity and a greater diversity of creation. With the higher octaves comes reduced multiplicity and a more intensified awareness of the singularity of being. Yet this generalization applies only to the landscape of creation. It does not apply to you. You are able to move freely where you will. You have been long enjoyed descending in full consciousness through successively lower octaves, thereby multiplying beings of diversity, and, through them, your own co-creative opportunities. Since the creation of this universal landscape, at each level of your descent you have appeared as individual beings designed to interact with, and create upon, the frequencies of each octave in turn. The physical plane is the lowest of the 7 higher, or primary planes of manifestation. It is the densest of the conscious planes and the lowest octave in which you have sought to incarnate in multiple forms, while simultaneously sustaining awareness of your unified field. While the beings appearing on the higher, non-physical frequencies, all naturally assumed a healthy hologrammatic understanding of their origin in you, on the physical level among the biologically incarnate, this understanding has not been continuous. It has faded in and out, flickering and blurring. Human reception of eternal awareness has been poor, at times even curtailed by the separatist nature of the self-images of historical peoples. You naturally seek to awaken in them the same sort of healthy hologrammatic self-understanding that is experienced by the beings of higher, less substantial frequencies, but humankind's extreme over-identification with form requires that such an awakening be gradual. You do not want to dissolve their individual distinctions in a single burst, as they realize their essential unity with you, and the singular field of our common awareness. For such a sudden change in self-understanding could dissolve their individual body fields. And your goal is not to end individuality but to inhabit it. So you have sought to awaken humans slowly over the centuries, preserving their self-distinctions that they might continue with you as a family, as a cooperative association of interconnected informational beings. Breaking through into the collective field of human consciousness, and then sustaining that breakthrough during this past cycle of education has required all your humor and wisdom, and that of your angelic legions for many thousands of years. Guiding collective human thought toward the currents of universal awareness has been slow and tedious. We have long known that the larger the Earth's human population, the greater the probability of awakening. Yet for millennia, territorial fear-centered behavior has kept human numbers reduced to so few that genuine breakthroughs, sustained spirit incarnations, were extremely rare. The development of greatest relevance in recent centuries has been the consistent, and in this century, dramatic improvement in the field of intra-human communication. As a result of new human communication technology, our work of education was able to leap forward rapidly. Our initial efforts to use the print medium for the distribution of health-related information were not entirely successful in the face of ecclesiastical opposition and an extremely low overall rate of literacy. But health awareness eventually did spread, and human populations have since multiplied accordingly. Meanwhile, the predisposition toward awakening has grown at a rate more rapid than the population, and our continuing inspiration of better and more effective communication tools has resulted in technology that currently unites the diverse human cultures of the Earth in a single global communications network. Our educational activities become more conscious and more effective with each passing day. The worst-case scenarios for transition into the post-historic order are no longer likely. In some cases they are no longer possible. And our education is continuously reducing the likelihood of scenarios of lesser destruction. It is actually possible, not quite likely yet, but possible, that we might yet achieve our optimal goal of a smooth and peaceful transition. A chain reaction in human understanding resulting in planetary awakening could theoretically occur at any time. On the eve of this great meta-historical event, the current of universal attention is flowing so powerfully toward this imminent awakening, that it resembles a river approaching flood tide. Throughout the realms where those of our kind are conscious, we share this awesome current of attention. As creatures of the current, we qualify its interests with our individuality, working together in our various capacities to help you awaken to your native understanding. Your awakening, when complete, will signal a distinct new evolutionary phase, with new ground rules and wholly altered creative conditions.